Hey, 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 everybody. It is a sunny Thursday, baby. And you know what that means? That's right. It is another edition of the Real Deal Pod with Allister and Geoff. Oh my goodness, it is a beautiful day outside.
Yeah, you look like
People
an angel.
walking, people walking, people running, dogs running. This is an amazing day. Geoff, my man, how you doing?
Well, I'm good. The sun's glistening off your forehead. You look like you're an angel. Oh, man. You look good. And
Thanks,
the only bad thing I see on you today is you got a Jets. You got a Jets video.
Yeah. Oh, it's my Jets. I actually just came in from a run, but it's my beautiful Jets hoodie that my amazing in-laws, my brother-in-law and my sister-in-law got me for Christmas. I love this thing. And even though the Winnipeg Jets aren't playing that well this year, it's okay. You can't be the best ever all the time.
One of my favorite uniforms is the old school Jets uniform, right?
Yeah.
From the
Yeah.
from the first years in Winnipeg.
Yeah, from the 80s. The
Yeah.
80s Jets.
Red pants, navy blue. Yeah, those
Yeah.
are slick.
Yeah, fantastic, man. Fantastic.
What are you running a kilometer in these days, Alistair? You know, a former collegiate
Oh, like
wide receiver.
what am I? Oh, you're funny that you ask if I time my runs. I do not time my exercise. I have an area that I go through. I pop on my headphones, I listen to my music, and I just go. So I do not time my stuff or see how many my elevation is or anything like that that my Apple Watch can and tells me I should do.
All right.
Yeah.
Perfect.
But it's something it's just nice to get out. I try to go during lunchtime. That's when I try to make my break to go and just take a quick run and then get back at her. But yeah, man, no. Jets, the day, Geoff, I just want to say, you know how I knew the day was going to be a good day? How I knew today was going to be a good day? I woke up and this morning the birds were chirping, the sun was shining, Geoff. It was beautiful. It was a beautiful day, Geoff. It's going to be a great day. We've got a lot to talk about. So, man, let's get at her with podcast's hottest segment, and that is...
Did you know?
That's right, baby. Did you know? So, Geoff, as I try to find my Did You Know article here, my Did You Know notes. Geoff, did you know that the real estate market across Metro Vancouver and the Fraser Valley is starting to show early signs of improvement and movement, but it's happening in a very different way than many people expected.
Do tell.
All right, so we got stats in, Geoff. That was my headline. That was my booming headline. I screwed it up, but that's okay. We'll move on. That we got stats, so I wanted to break it down. February data has just come in, and while the sales picked up compared to January, the overall pace of the market is still running behind historical norms. So we were busier, as I was saying to you in the pod last week, and you were saying as well. It seemed to be a pretty busy February, and it was, right? It was just, we're still historically below the norms. In the Fraser Valley, there were 843 home sales in February, and that was a 36% jump from January, which of course sounds impressive at first glance. But when you zoom out a little and you see the bigger story is sales are still 38% below the 10-year seasonal average for this time of year. Over in Metro Vancouver, the trend is pretty similar. The region recorded 1,648 sales in February, which is almost 10% lower than the same time last year and nearly 30% below the 10-year average. Yeah. So what is going on is economists and board analysts are saying the slower pace isn't a temporary blip anymore. That this is starting to look like the new normal for the market. That this is what our new normal is going to be. And this is where things get a little bit interesting, though. While sales are still slower than usual, inventory it's actually climbing.
Yeah, so there's more supply.
Yeah, there continues to be more supply. So supply continues to increase, but it's weird because later on I'll get to that part later on. We're increasing, but not in areas where we think we'd be increasing. So in the Fraser Valley, in the Fraser Valley, there is now 8,344 active listings, which is 51% higher than the 10-year average.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, in Metro Vancouver, there's 13,545 currently on the market, which is about 37% above normal seasonal levels. So in simple terms, of course, buyers continue to have more choice than they've had in years. And that's reflected in the sales to active listings ratio, which is, of course, one of the best ways to understand market conditions. In the Fraser Valley, it currently sits at 10%. And in Metro Van, it sits at 12.6%. With detached homes even lower in the Metro Van at 9%. So you've got townhomes and condos really pushing that area of the market in Metro Van.
It's crazy to me that there's so much more inventory that's on the market than a 10-year average, right?
Yeah.
You know, it
Yeah.
almost contradicts that people were slowing down putting their homes on the market because they were waiting for it to correct, but maybe you're getting into that.
No, and that is what I'll get to into a second because I want to just quickly get to pricing. So across the Fraser Valley, the benchmark price for a typical home, now this is the condo single family townhome. The average price for one of those right now is 895,000, which is down 8.8 or 8.8 to 9%, sorry, 8 to 9% lower than February of last year,
Oh, wow.
depending on property type. So we've gone down 8 to 9%. And
Which is quite big.
Sorry?
That's quite a large.
It is. It is. And in Metro Van, the benchmark price is 1.1 million, and that's down roughly 6.8% to last year. Right?
Which was also down from the previous year.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so this is where the key takeaway was, though. Even though inventory is high, new listings are actually starting to slow down now. So both regions, we saw fewer listings compared to last year.
Is it just because it's leftover inventory?
That's still sitting on the market.
Okay, that
Yeah,
makes
we've
more
got a
sense.
lot of quote unquote, and you don't want to use this term, but quote unquote stale inventory,
Yeah.
right?
So it's a carry flow.
Yeah, it's a carry flow, right? So so both regions we saw fewer listings compared to last year, and so that's now suggesting that many homeowners are now choosing to wait rather than sell now in a known slower market.
You know, when you break it down like that, that does make sense. Like
Yeah,
we are in a market where we've had a lot of supply and not as high of a demand.
yeah,
And it's really like the hangover effect of inventory. But the reality of it is people, when we say there's an increase in housing, like sale or inventory, it's not that it's new. It's a large part of it sounds like it's a hangover from the
previous
last
months.
six. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and that's exactly what it is. So really, so at the end of the day, right, the spring market is really going to be a test of where things go next.
Yeah.
Right? That because that's our busiest market. It really will be a sign, the spring market of what we look forward to for the rest of the year. So if demand returns, right? Who knows? We could see the new normal shift again. But if it doesn't, then this slower market, this slower, more balanced pace is really just the market resetting after years of extreme competition.
Well, and it also goes back to to what we've been talking about and what economists are saying as far as the rebound of real estate is that again, there is a lot of supply.
Yeah.
There is not as much demand. Therefore, with this most recent statistic of inventory at 10-year highs,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Um, but again, not as many listings, but again, people are still buying. Maybe
Yeah.
not as quickly as they have been, but people are still buying. And once that leftover inventory slowly disappears, and it will, like
Hmm.
anything,
Yeah.
might just take longer than we want.
Yeah.
And if people aren't listing, which it now sounds like that seems to be what people's mindset is, at some point that supply is going to become lower and lower and lower, and that demand will kind of meet where it needs to be. And then again, this is where we start to see that correction. So when is that going to happen? This year, next year, the year after? Just like we talked about last week, it's the unpredictability,
Right.
right, of the
Yeah.
future. So
Yeah. So that's it, my man. That's my did you know was the market stats for February,
yeah, it's
right?
interesting. That's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a good one because I think most people, Alistair, when they hear that, like my initial reaction was that it's at a 38% um, increase of inventory over the last 10 years, I think you said, right?
Right. Yeah.
But people are not going to kind of put where is that increase coming from? And it really is a hangover of inventory that's already been listed but hasn't sold. But if you take a look on how many people are actually listing their homes,
Yeah.
from what you're telling us is that it's actually lower than it has been,
Exactly. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. We've
So
seen fewer listings than last year at this time, this month.
yeah, good.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
Well, hey, let's keep the train moving here. And I wanted this week to kind of share a file that we worked on where it came to us in a declined um, status and how we got it to an approved status with a game plan. So I think this is going to be really relative to a lot of people out there where they're going to basically, where maybe they have put an offer in on homes where their financing has collapsed. And maybe a lot of this story that I'm going to tell with a file that I worked on is going to resonate with people and give them hope. Because at the end of the day, it's very, very important when you are getting decline for anything or getting bad news on anything. It's always great, always highly, highly suggested to get two other opinions before you basically turn it upside down kind of idea,
Yeah.
right? So I'm going to use the names James and Sarah on these. These are not real names, but this is a real file. And these guys, working professionals in Vancouver, they were renting in Burnaby for $2,400 a month. They saved a down payment. They've been dreaming of their first home. They go out and basically put an offer on a home and they get declined. And they get declined and they're confused because, again, like we have great jobs, we have great income, we have our savings. But when we got a hold of it, it was like, well, why did you get the decline? Right? What has happened here? Because on the surface, you're right. You do have a great job, you have your income, you have your savings. So what is the problem, and where did the previous broker fall short not to advise you properly on what the current situation was? And at the end of the day, when we took a look at this and we opened up the file, and again, largely by asking a lot of questions, but when we took a look at it, is yes, you have fantastic jobs. Yes, you have steady income. Yes, you have your down payment to make it happen. But the confusion or the speed bump here was their credit,
Ah.
right? And their credit wasn't where it needed to be. And here's what a lot of people need to understand. That magic credit score is 680, right? That is the magic credit score that lenders want to see when you're putting your file in with them for an approval. Now, again, sometimes that credit is 650, sometimes that credit is 620, but there always has to be a story behind it. But there are some lenders, Alistair, that will say, hey, if you don't have a credit score minimum of 650, it's just an auto decline, right?
Wow.
So with these folks, again, when we took a look at their credit, they had that high utilization. So remember what we've talked about before in the past is that if you got a $10,000 limit on your credit card, your balance should be no more than 30% of what the limit is. So the balance on that credit card, if you have a $10,000 limit, should only be $3,000. So they had their credit cards, I'm not going to say maxed out, but probably at about 80% of their limit. They had a missed payment, which was an isolated incident, but they did have a missed payment on one of their what we call trade lines, which is just a fancy word for debt. And this lady also had a self-employed component to her income outside of her permanent job. She had a self-employment, so she had a side hustle going on that the original broker didn't recognize, right? So again, just imagine, Alistair, you're living your life, you have a great job, you have steady income, you have savings. Yeah, you have credit card debt, but who doesn't have credit card debt, right?
Yeah.
Yes, you missed a payment, but who hasn't missed a payment? And you know what? I also got a side hustle that's, putting extra money in my pocket. This is going to be a no problem. This is going to be a no-brainer. We're going to get approved. So when they got declined, obviously, what are people's immediate emotions? They're confused, like, why is this happening?
Yeah, they feel let down.
Yeah, they're pissed off.
Yeah.
Like this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
How did my best friend just do a mortgage, or how did my coworker just get it done? And they feel discouraged, right?
Sure.
Because again, nobody really ever wants to hear that word no, or that you can't do it.
Mhm.
And this is where I go back, folks, is that if you've heard that word no, or you have received any kind of bad news, you're diagnosed with something. In this case, you're declined for a mortgage. Please get a second and or a third opinion from a working professional that you know, like, and trust. And after the second and or the third, if the answer is still the same as the first, that's probably a really good indication that it's not going to happen at this current time. So again, with these guys, their problem was their credit cards, right? Their problem was that they were maxed out on their credit cards. Their problem was that they missed a payment on one of their trade lines, on one of their debts. The problem is that the self-employed income wasn't structured necessarily properly for lenders. So again, remember, being self-employed, you're one of two things, right? Also, you're either a sole proprietor,
Yep.
right? Or you're you're incorporated. And folks, if you are a sole proprietor, like this lady here, you run all your business through your personal accounts. Like, everything is not separated. You just have a mashed potatoes of everything. Your personal income, your business income. So if that's you and you are running and you have a side hustle, it's not your primary job, but you do have a side hustle, and you're running all your business profits through your personal bank accounts, please stop doing that, right? Go to your bank and open up a business account and put your business revenues and expenses in that account and separate it from your personal, right? Pretty simple stuff, but again, a lot of us do not do that, right? So again, the lesson that we needed to learn with them is that your credit matters. Remember, we've always said your credit is as equally as important as your income, right? And it wasn't that they were missing payments. Yes, they had an isolated incident where they missed a payment, but when you have high debts and you miss a payment, again, to a lender, that's a report card of how you're managing your debts. So again, what we needed to do with these folks, and this is what we did, this was like a 6-month strategy that we did with them, is that there is really no reason why you shouldn't get this thing approved. So this is why you're feeling frustrated. This is why you're feeling discouraged. This is why you're shocked, because based on your income, yes, no problem. This thing works. But where it doesn't work is your credit. And where it doesn't work is when you take a look at your bank statements, because you have such a mix mash of stuff going on between business and personal, because this lady had a side hustle. It's just really, 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 really messy. So what do? Again, Alistair, I'm going to quiz you here. If you have a limit, how much should your balance be of the limit if you want your credit score to be strong?
20%?
30%.
30%? Okay, I said 20.
30%.
Sorry, I thought it was 20. Go ahead.
So again, we use that analogy. If you have a $10,000 limit, your credit card balance should be no more than $3,000. Let's break it down even simpler. If you have a $1,000 limit, your credit card balance should be no more than $300.
See, I thought it was 200. My bad.
Right?
Yeah.
Even better. So what we had to do with these folks is that we had to start getting their debts reduced to make sure that their balances were within 30% of their limit. And once we did that, guess what happens? The credit score automatically shoots up. In this process, we also saw some high interest debt, right? Where is like, hey, this is not necessarily going to help you get you the mortgage, but this is actually going to be a strategy that's going to put more money in your pocket. So again, in this 6-month time, we got them to consolidate their high interest loans, right? And then we put it into a consolidation at a lower interest rate, and the overall payment was less. So again, they're sticking real dollars back in their pocket, but that also made the credit a little bit stronger. With her self-employment, we got her to set up a business component to her banking. So again, she wasn't mixing her business in with her personal. And we structured it within the file that basically, again, wasn't income that we used, but brought additional income strength if needed, right? Again, their savings was there, but again, Alistair, it was such a mix mash between what the business savings were to what the personal savings were, large deposits going in, large deposits going out. Again, it was just a complete nightmare, right? So remember, folks, when you are doing a mortgage, the lenders are going to want to see bank statements anywhere from 30 to 90 days to see where that down payment is coming from. And if it's a complete mess, with large deposits going in, large deposits going out, and things not making a whole lot of sense, what does that trigger to a lender when we're talking about anti-money laundering?
I was going to say,
right?
Yeah, you could be a drug trafficker.
Right. And no, her side business was not a dry cleaner or a car wash or a
taxi
wine
drive. Oh no, never
right?
mind.
And no disrespect to anybody that actually has that, because again, those are real legitimate businesses. But when it comes to high risk industries, those are high risk industries when it comes to anti-money laundering. But again, to keep it simple, we basically set her up to have an account for her business, have an account for her personal. There was no mix mash of stuff. So when we needed to show the history of the down payment, it wasn't messy at all, right? And then again, once that all happened, their credit score increased 80 basis points. So it went from, say, a 620 all the way up to a 700. Their ratios became well within the lender guidelines. There was very clear down payment documentation. And guess what? When we submitted it, we turned that decline into an approval just by shaking things up a little bit, massaging things here, putting things there. And again, nothing really changed outside of making it a little bit neater, right?
Yeah.
And I shouldn't say they didn't change. We changed a lot. We changed the credit score by educating them and getting their balances within their limits.
Mm-hmm.
We educated them there to get rid of some high interest debt and consolidate that in an unsecured debt consolidation loan. We educated them by separating their business and their personal. So when we needed to support the down payment, it wasn't messy and it wasn't ugly. And there was just clear explanation for what we needed. And when you present things in that way, Alistair, you are going to get an approval, right?
Yeah.
And the lesson to take away here is that when you guys are getting declined, it isn't permanent. It could be possibly a roadmap on how to get that decline into an approval. And a lot of times that is based on the strategy, not based on basically getting a decline here, a decline here, a decline here. That comes back to getting a strategy and moving forward in a way where you're going to turn that decline into an approval. And these folks took 6 months. Sometimes it could be 60 days, right?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Understanding that your income is one part of the equation when getting a mortgage approval, your credit is equally as important, right?
Yeah.
And again, with these folks, guys, it wasn't a lot of big changes. It was a lot of small improvements, which led to the big results. And again, if these folks didn't get that second opinion, they would have left frustrated. They would have left disgruntled.
Yep.
And to be honest, maybe in their eyes, they were convinced that they weren't able to buy a home,
Sure.
right? So again, folks, this is what I say. Anything in your life, if it's bad news, get a second opinion. If it's still bad news, get a third opinion. If it's still bad news, that's probably going to be the answer you're going to hear. But again, if you have 3 sets of eyes looking at something that you know that these are 3 working professionals, or we won't even count the first one because the first one was a decline, but 2 want people that you trust, 2 people that you know what to, how to do it, again, can sometimes turn that bad news into good news. Like how many times, Alistair, have you heard stories where people are diagnosed with something, they get a second opinion or a third opinion, and that diagnose isn't what it was supposed to be.
Yeah,
right?
you read about those stories all the time.
So again, this is no different when it comes to mortgages and your financing when you're hearing the word no.
100%. And that's why, again, it's so important to have somebody in your corner that can do that stuff for you, as opposed to somebody, just like we always say, and again, it's not to pick on banks or anything like that, but they're kind of trained to just, maybe I put it poorly, the bare minimum, right? They're just kind of, that's their job almost. It's just get
And
this in and out.
it's not only banks, it's brokers as well.
Brokers too. So
Right?
yeah, it's your bare minimum broker as well. That is like, now that seems a little bit too much or a little bit more out of my wheelhouse, and it's just easier to say no than get involved with it.
Exactly.
Right? And so again, that's just why it's so important to have that power team, with you. That's crazy that people won't even, that there's banks that won't work with somebody that's got a 680. I was looking at it.
Oh no, they will work with people that have a 680. Some lenders won't look at you unless you have a minimum score of 650.
Oh, okay. Because I was like, man, because there's a lot of Canadians that don't even qualify at that. I was kind of looking through stats and I was like, whoo.
Well, you know what? Surprisingly that you say that. We just rolled out of a conference, and I don't know what stats that you're looking at, but the average Canadian credit score is actually 700 plus.
Yeah. Right?
Right?
7 something. Yes, that actually I just saw that.
Yeah. 700 plus.
Yeah, 724.
Yeah.
I think it was. Yeah.
So again, what that says is that, most Canadians, their credit scores are where they need to be. In this particular case, it wasn't, right?
760, by the way. Sorry, my bad. 760.
Yeah.
Good
Yeah.
for us.
Yeah. And so yeah, this is just one of the stories that I can tell. If we had more time, I would share another story where their credit score was 620 and we still got it done, but it was the explanation of why that credit score was at 620. Which again, where I go back to is that you need that right broker to ensure that if it is going to be a no, you're not going to get a yes somewhere else, right? And if it is going to be a no, at least you now have a strategy on how to turn that no into a yes. If you are getting declined and no one has given you a strategy on how to get that no into a yes, again, you're probably working with the wrong person. And again, get that second opinion, and if needed, get that third opinion with people that know what they're doing. Again, I share that story, Alistair, about my former business partner,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You don't, if you got to ask 20 people to finally
get
get
the
the
answer
answer
you
what
want.
you want to hear, it's probably going to fall apart at the end.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's exactly it. That is the biggest thing, in my opinion, that if somebody is giving you, for lack of a better term, negative news, right? Something that goes against what you wanted. If trust the ones that are giving you a strategy on how to get that negative turned into a positive. Because anybody can tell you no. That's super easy to tell somebody no. But to develop a coherent plan in order to help you turn that around, that is invaluable. Those are the type of people that people should be looking for in all walks of life. Like, could you imagine if you went to a doctor and they said, well, unfortunately, you have cancer. Well, is there anything I can do? No. I'm pretty sure that's not what you want to hear in life. You want to hear somebody that can give you a strategy on how to get better. Right? And so to not choose that in other aspects of your life is just, it's crazy to me.
Amen. All right,
Yeah.
let's wrap her up, my man.
Let's wrap her up, buddy. Well, thank you everybody for listening to us. Enjoy this weekend. I think we might have rain, but I'll do my best to kind of wave it away. I want this to
Just
be
do your
nice.
dance.
What's that?
Do your sun dance.
I'll do my thing, I'll do my thing. I told my wife that's why the sun came today, is because I willed it away. I willed the sun here yesterday. It was gloomy.
Exactly.
Yeah, man. So get out there, enjoy it. Enjoy the little bit of sunshine that we can. Summer's a coming and I'm so excited. Please tell everybody about this episode. If you were able to take away one little nugget, make sure you please share it to somebody close to you that may need the same type of advice, because not all the time are we able to get the advice that we need. Continue to love, like, and share us with everybody you know. In the meantime, stay empowered, stay informed, and most importantly, Geoff,
Stay tuned.
that's right, baby. Stay tuned. Peace out.